Yes, the recording is live.
Okay, so I will welcome everyone to the November 12th meeting of the LAX Community Noise Roundtable. And we are meeting virtually as we have done since the COVID pandemic. And conversations should still be going through the chair or me as the facilitator if the chair or vice chair are unable to respond. So let's use the raised hand features of the Teams meeting for the conversations. And I will now turn it over to Denny to go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Gene. I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. As you are a member of the LAX Community Noise Roundtable, you know that we are made up. I'm getting an echo, but
we're okay on our end, Denny.
Okay, well, then I'll live with it. For those of you who have not been to one of these meetings, we have members from all of the electeds, local electeds of all levels. We have community groups, FAA, and airlines. And I'm not sure whether we have the FAA with us on the meeting today. Do we?
I am not.
No, we don't.
Them.
So we are.
And that's likely because they're furloughed due to the government shutdown.
Right. So I guess we're on our own in terms of guessing, and thank goodness we have some important things to still discuss that is on our agenda. For those that are unaware, we on the roundtable know that the LAX is responsible for noise that occurs on the ground, and the FAA for all of the flight tracks and the noise that we're getting from the air. Our purpose in life is to find solutions to the noise issues that are affecting the 1.2 million people in our basin of Los Angeles. With that, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I don't know whether anybody can see a flag, because I'm sure you probably can't see me. So we will assume that, and I'll just lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we were all just muted. Danny, if you want to unmute yourself. There you go. Okay, you're back.
Now can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. It says my mute is enabled.
Oh, we hear you.
Okay. I must be logged in twice because it also says my mic is that I have to unmute if I want to speak.
Right. I think you are in twice, which is probably why you're getting an echo.
Okay.
But let's not bother with that.
Okay. Public comments.
Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on items not on the agenda? David, do you know?
I don't see any.
Okay.
Do we know who's logged on as 310 ending in 77?
That's Richard Montgomery.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm currently emailing with Timmy right now. She's having some issues logging in. It's saying that Teams is requesting her to requesting verification. Excuse me. So I'm trying to work with her to log in right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I
think
know
we
I
can-
had trouble with it.
I think we can go ahead and close public comment, Denny, if you would.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Elizabeth, you're trying to help somebody. If you'd like us to come back to the reappointment, or would you like to take care of it now?
I will leave that up to you all. Should we
Let's-
wait for her?
If you're
We'll come
prepared
right back.
to,
Let's
If
come
you're
right
prepared
back to it
okay.
as soon as you've helped whoever you were helping to get back in or get in. Let's move forward then to discussion and consideration of submitting a letter for the FAA on the RNP EOR separation standards and implementation. Gene?
Yes, so we have been discussing this, came out of the work from the technical working group where we have been brought to our attention as a technical working group that the FAA has a tool which is called Established on RNP, or EOR for short, which is a tool that allows aircraft to be on instrument approaches and be able to do the separation necessary for those arriving straight in, as well as in mixing in those on the downwind. We saw that it has been implemented in San Diego, and the video we saw show it working there. And we wanted an update from the FAA on its implementation status and possibly increasing its use at LAX, because we also understand that that tool is actually installed at LAX. And so waiting on the FAA to be able to present on that. We have gone several months, I believe, at this point in having that request to the FAA. And so the chair was interested, or is interested in the roundtable considering submitting a letter to the FAA requesting in writing that they provide a presentation as soon as possible so that we can proceed with the work of the technical working group in terms of the helping with the north downwind issues. With that, Denny, I'll turn it back to you if you want to guide further discussion on this before we go ahead and make a motion and vote on sending such a letter.
Is there anyone who would not like to see this happen? And if you have other comments, please raise it up. In fact, let's get the motion.
I'm sorry, Denny. Denny, this is Joanne Williams. What letter is this again? I'm so sorry.
Okay, we're gonna, as Gene was saying, the technical working group talked to the FAA and they created a method of control that would allow planes to stay higher and use the RNP, the required navigation procedures, to use their standard separations and implement. So it's a win-win for us, and it should be capable of helping allow the planes to stay higher and therefore quieter. And we're still waiting. We've asked several months ago of the FAA, when could they do this and is it practical for us? And we haven't gotten an answer yet. So we're now going to write them a letter as a formal request that we will start escalating as high as it needs to go. Let's call for a motion on this and let's get this thing moving.
I'll move for approval to send the letter to the FAA.
Do we have a second?
Second, Montgomery.
Thank you. And welcome aboard, Ryan.
Any further discussion?
Anyone, well, for the motion itself, I guess let's see if there is. I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed or wants to abstain? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Gene.
You're welcome.
Uh,
Elizabeth, are you prepared to take on your action?
I can. I haven't been able to get Timmy admitted yet. She's still having some connection issues.
Okay, well, go ahead with your item and then go back to trying to help her if you would.
All right, let me share my screen so I can have the letter up. All right, so Mr. Chair and members of the roundtable, the purpose of this agenda item is to reappoint Woodland Hills Neighborhood Council for roundtable membership for another 2-year term. The representatives for this group include Marty Lipkin and the alternate Timmy Romolini. With that, I recommend the roundtable make a motion to approve the membership reappointment.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Ryan Baldino seconds.
Second, Montgomery.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstention?
Young teenagers. I couldn't understand that.
I'm going to call, I'm calling Timmy on my phone, and I'll be able to put it next to my computer here, and at least she'll be able to participate that way.
Hey, Denny, it's not working no matter what I do.
Okay, you should be able to hear the meeting right now.
Hey,
Through
Timmy,
my-
this is Gene. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you hear Gene?
I said, this is
Oh,
Gene.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. You echo, but I hear you.
Okay.
Okay, this may be the best we're going to do, unless someone else would call Timmy and not have the echo.
No, I mean the echo's fine. I just won't speak. I'll just listen.
Okay, all right.
Is she able to call in? There is just a direct call-in number that we provide.
Yeah, let
The
me
323.
share.
Timmy, can you hear
Yeah.
me? The call-in number is 323-792-6246. And I believe you just have to enter the phone conference ID, which is 829-638-843. So you won't be able to have video, but I believe, you'll be able to join just via audio. Just like I think
Okay,
Richard,
well,
right?
I mean, either way, I'm listening now, so either way, I'm present.
Okay.
Well, it might be a more
Yeah, it's
direct
still not-
connection, Timmy. If you call in.
Okay. All right. I will do that.
Okay,
Give me a second. I'm going to hang up and then call that number.
Okay.
if it doesn't work, call me back.
Okay, Denny, you got it.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Let's move forward then. Integrating noise and sustainability initiatives across United's operations. Melissa, I would welcome you and thank you for your participation.
Hi, well, thanks for having us and the United team here. I'm Melissa Garrett. I just joined United fairly recently, so thrilled to be on this call. And I know my colleagues here feel the same way. We love engaging with the airport communities that we serve. And, it's really important to us to have these opportunities to listen to your concerns, share our updates, and really strengthen our relationships with the communities. So today's presentation will cover 2 key areas, as you mentioned, and as you see it on your screen, really the technical aspects of our noise reduction efforts and an overview of our broader sustainability strategy. At first, they might not seem to go together, but we really feel within United that they do. Our goal, is to reduce both noise and emissions, and that really leads to more efficient and sustainable, overall program. Ultimately, the goal is to continue advancing these practices that make our operations quieter, cleaner, and better for the communities and environments around the airports. So with that, I think Captain Ron Renk is going to take over from here, and I'll let him and Ashley, as they present, introduce themselves too. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm Ron Rink. I'm the Senior Manager of Flight Technical for United Airlines. I work within the Flight Operations Organization and am chiefly responsible for aircraft technology as well as any ground technology the pilots use as well. So with that, if you want to jump to the next slide. So I wanted to give a quick overview of what is flight operations within an airline. At least for United Airlines, it's primarily responsible for the safe operation of all of our flights. We also are responsible for pilot hiring, pilot training on 5 different fleet types, all aircraft operating procedures, all pilot policies and procedures, regulatory compliance, and I purposely put worldwide in there because a lot of people forget we have to deal with not just the FAA, but regulators around the world. We also are responsible for our flight test operations, all the flight deck avionics and equipage on our airplanes, and approximately 18,000 pilots, their care and feeding. Next slide. So I want to start out, I think United is really good neighbors in a lot of ways, but there are some things that hinder or limit the ways we can be good neighbors. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the challenges. Safety is United's top priority for pilots. Every aspect of flying comes after the safety of our flights. 18,000 pilots plus must be trained to operate those 5 different fleet types around the globe to 370 different destinations on 6 continents. So lots of different types of flight operations for us. Every country can have different regulatory rules and procedures, and pilots are responsible to know all of those different regulations and procedures around the world. Another important note, I know there's a lot of airplanes that are United paint scheme around LAX, but out of the 18,000 pilots we have on staff, less than 1,164 are actually based in LA. The importance of that is that just kind of tells you that a lot of the flights in and out are pilots who may never have been to LAX or don't frequent LAX as much as the roughly 1,200 pilots that are based there. They know the operation in and out, but everybody else is learning every time they go in and out of an operation. Each pilot is also responsible to know over 4,500 pages of information. That includes our aircraft flight manuals, our flight operations manual, and then our worldwide operations manual. Next. So how does the 18,000 pilots help our neighbors? Well, we have a modern aircraft purchasing program. We also retrofit a lot of our existing aircraft that have, known issues with enhancements that make less noise. We provide something known as Company 10-7 pages, which is part of the pilot's charting. And we list and show noise sensitivities at each airport. We also allow reduced thrust takeoffs where safety isn't compromised, and I'll talk more about what that means in a minute. And then we purchase flight deck technologies that both enhance safety and reduce pilot workload and make less noise and emissions. Next slide. So first and foremost, obviously the biggest thing that makes noise on airplanes are engines, and I'm proud to say United has worked with our OEMs to continue to increase the amount of fan size in an engine, a jet engine, and decrease the actual jet size, if you will. For those that aren't aware of how a jet engine works in modern day, they have a fan, which is kind of what you see in that picture there, kind of some big blades at the front of the airplane. That's the main driver of the thrust that pushes the aircraft forward. And then there's a smaller core behind that with very high speed spinning blades. That's the jet component, right? It's heating fuel up, making air rush through that engine, and all of that is what provides the momentum to spin that big fan. But the more we can pump through the fan and the less through the jet, the less noise we make. And I think the industry has made huge strides. Back when I started, a lot of engines were simply jet propulsion, right? They didn't even have really fan bypasses. And we've improved up from, the average airplane having a 5-to-1 ratio of how much air goes through the fan and the core of the engine to now 9-to-1 on these modern engines. And so I have, this slide I think went out to the whole group. You're happy, welcome to read all the cool techie stuff there. But the main thing to take out of that is we're doing a lot of high bypass engines now, and those are less noise and less fuel burn, so less emissions. Next slide. We've also been working on vortex generators. We're now 100% equipped on all of our Airbus aircraft. I believe even this roundtable had put in some information on this years ago requesting help from United. These vortex generators, there's an inlet on the bottom of the wing that allows fresh air into the fuel tanks as the fuel is burned. And as the air moves over that hole in the bottom of the wing, it made a very unique whistling sound. These vortex generators that we've added now kind of disrupt the flow of air over that hole in the bottom of the wing and thereby kind of prevent that extra whistling noise. Next slide. As I mentioned, this was a partnership with numerous airports, including Chicago, San Fran, and LA. We started the program back in 2016, voluntarily equipping all the aircraft. Of course, it takes many years on an aircraft or a fleet that's constantly moving around the globe. But if you go to the next slide, I'm happy to say United is 100% there. So every old airplane that we had that's an Airbus has been retrofitted. And then we've successfully worked with Airbus so that all new aircraft we take delivery of from the factory come with the vortex generators already installed. Next slide. Talking about the company 10.7 pages, I put a couple examples here. So these are required reading every time a pilot goes into and out of an airport. These are the pages that list company-specific information the pilot needs to be aware of. You'll note on the left-hand side graphic, we kind of list, what we consider key things the pilot needs to consider at a particular airport. So this example shows a Chicago plate. There's safety alerts the pilot needs to pay particular attention to. There's some jet blast hazard there. There's lasso procedures. And then, of course, the highlighted one is there's noise abatement procedures. And so that flags the pilot's attention that flying out of Chicago, I need to pay attention to specifically these 4 areas to operate successfully, and then the pilots can go into the actual text information and pull out what the particular operations or procedures are for that airport. Next page. So I also talked about reduced thrust. Where safety isn't compromised, we do reduced thrust takeoffs to help, again, eliminate some noise. There are limitations that apply, though, around this. Per regulations, the FAA says we can't reduce below 75%. And I'll tell you, as a pilot, I like that rule because there is also a safety component to every takeoff, right? The faster I get up to altitude, the more altitude I have should something go wrong to successfully get my passengers back on the ground safely. So we don't necessarily want to ever encourage people to take off with so little thrust that they spend an hour at 500 feet above your heads, because A, that's going to make a lot of noise anyway. They're not getting away from the ground, and it reduces safety. Other times we can't do reduced thrust takeoffs is anytime there's strong winds or crosswinds, any snow, slush, or standing water on the runways, or any reported or suspected wind shear. Next slide. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about some RNAV stuff, and I heard you guys talking about established on RNP. Some of this kind of goes hand in hand, but United has equipped all of our aircraft with RNAV capability over the years. This example here is a arrival procedure that goes into Houston Intercontinental Airport in Texas. However, LAX has the same kind of setup that Houston does, but we worked with the FAA throughout the years to better take advantage of area navigation arrivals. And in years of old, when I came up as a pilot and trained, it was always a kind of a stair step down. ATC would tell you descend and maintain an altitude. You'd fly level at that altitude for some period of time. Then they tell you descend and maintain, and that process just repeated until you were from cruise to landing on the runway. These new RNAV arrivals that were created have what we call optimum profile descents, or OPDs. And basically what we've done is tried to take all that stair stepping out of the arrivals, and the airplane can calculate a constant descent path all the way from cruise to touchdown. Now, I will say there are factors that can sometimes affect this, like weather or saturated traffic and stuff like that, where ATC doesn't allow their use. But more and more we do see their use, and again, it's a great reduction in noise because essentially the airplane's at flight idle during the descent all the way to landing. Next slide. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about approaches. One of the examples here, the RNAV approach, is an actual RNAV approach at LAX. What you're seeing in the graph there on the left for the RNAV approaches is that the aircraft actually stay at or above the flight path. And there's a constant descent angle, right? All the way from Dodger there on the left of the graph to the runway 24 right at the right of the graph. There is no level off in that procedure. So again, like the arrival I just talked about, the aircraft will stay pretty close to flight idle all the way down from Dodger to the runway, again, in an effort to decrease noise. The graphic that's on the lower right-hand side is the ILS. And while this isn't an example from LAX, this is a pretty typical example from around the country, where in an ILS case, there usually are level offs that the aircraft will have to have an increased amount of power to maintain level flight. And then in addition, the air traffic control will generally vector at altitudes below the procedure versus above. So we're very bullish here at United on RNAV procedures because they actually provide a bunch of things, including, the pilots are better in sync with air traffic control on where the airplane's going to go and what speeds and altitudes we're going to fly. But they certainly generate a lot less noise and emissions since we're at flight idle for pretty much the whole procedure to the ground. And that's all I had for this. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, I believe, who's going to talk next about some sustainability.
Yes, thanks, Ron. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Zayed. I'm the Senior Specialist over Air and Noise here at United Airlines, and I sit in our Environmental Affairs team. I report up to Allison Carter, who is should actually also be on this call right now. Thank you. So before we move into the sustainability portion of this presentation, I just quickly want to wrap up everything Ron has touched on, and touching on our Fly Quiet program participation and recognition in 2024. So most notably at LAX, we were awarded the Gold Award in Category 1, which includes 100 plus average daily operations. And we were also recognized for earning bonus points as part of our Fly Quiet program, as part of the Fly Quiet program for our proactive engagement with LAWA. At San Diego in 2024, United was recognized for achieving the highest Fly Quiet score in the large domestic carrier category. We also received top remarks for our use of quieter aircraft and demonstrating the best compliance with San Diego's nighttime noise curfew. At O'Hare, we received the highest Fly Quiet program score in the air carrier category. And with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, we received a Silver Tier Award at LaGuardia and a Gold Tier Award at Newark, which marked the first time an airline has ever received gold at Newark, which was a great recognition. We were also commended by the Port Authority for achieving perfect engagement scores for both LaGuardia and Newark through participation in the community roundtable meeting. And I just want to note here that I do try to always attend these LAX roundtable meetings, so please always know I'm here as a resource. Next slide, please. All right, and with that, we'll now jump into our approach to sustainability, highlighting how our commitment to reducing emissions and resource use connects closely with our approach to managing noise. As a caveat here, I don't sit necessarily on our sustainability team, so we worked in conjunction with those folks to kind of put this overview together for you all. Next slide, please. All right, so United is on a mission to redefine the future of air travel with sustainability at the forefront. So this means that we believe that it is critical to continue to serve our purpose of connecting people and uniting the world, and we aim to find more sustainable solutions while also achieving our financial goals. So our ambitions are anchored in our business strategy, as building a future of sustainable aviation benefits our customers, our employees, our shareholders, and also the communities we serve through lower emissions and quieter skies. So United was the first global airline to set a goal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 without relying on the traditional use of voluntary carbon offsets. So to do so, we must start by acknowledging that 3% of current greenhouse gas emissions come from the aviation industry, with 98% of our current footprint coming from the combustion of jet fuel. So it's important to note here that our work towards fuel
Yeah.
efficiency
Before you
also
get started, just to say hi, see how you're doing.
sorry. It's important to note here that our work towards fuel efficiency also supports advances in aircraft design and operations that reduce both carbon emissions and noise impacts. So in order to meet our 2050 goal, United has adopted a midterm target of reducing its carbon emissions intensity by 50% by 2035 from a 2019 baseline. Reaching this goal not only means fewer emissions globally, but also contributes to a cleaner, quieter experience locally, something that we know is very important to your community. Next slide, please. All right, so our strategy to achieve our net zero goals is centered around 4 key pillars, those being driving fuel efficiencies and innovations in flight, adopting more sustainable alternatives, integrating sustainability efforts at every altitude, and collaborating with our partners. So for that first pillar there, our primary objective is to reduce the emissions from United's current conventional jet fuel consumption, which is the single largest contributor to our environmental footprint. Under that second pillar, United's objective is to help commercialize and scale sustainable aviation fuels or SAF, as they are the technological solution in development today that can abate emissions from flight operations. And as we transition to cleaner fuels and newer aircraft designs, we're also advancing designs that operate more quietly and more efficiency. Under that third pillar, our responsibility to address our environmental impact extends beyond the emissions generated from our flights to operations across our entire business. So this includes things such as ground operations, where innovations like electric ground support equipment, or GSE, and smarter taxiing help reduce both noise and emissions at airports. And then finally, under that fourth pillar, our journey towards sustainable aviation is a collective effort. So that means we are working with customers, employees, airports, suppliers, industry partners, and policymakers to advance sustainable solutions for aviation. Our collective goal is to expand the supply of SAF, invest in scalable decarbonization technology solutions, and reduce our environmental footprint. So in the following slides here, we'll expand upon pillars 1 through 3 in a little bit more detail. Next slide. All right, so there are 4 major areas where we are aiming to drive fuel efficiency and innovations in flight, which is the first pillar we mentioned above. So the first way that we're driving fuel efficiency is through future aircraft technology. So advancements in aircraft design and engine technology often support improvements in fuel efficiency, which means fewer greenhouse gas emissions. So our illustrative roadmap here on this slide shows the potential efficiency benefits of several advancements, such as new engines, more aerodynamic airframe designs, and future generation aircraft models, which also have the potential to deliver noise reduction benefits. So our estimate is that by 2050, future generation aircraft could be up to 30% more fuel efficient than today's commercial fleet. We also anticipate that we will have the ability to retrofit some of these efficient technologies onto existing aircraft, which would improve our fleet-wide fuel efficiency by 1.5% every 5 years. All right, our second area here is through fleet renewal. So the replacement of older aircraft with newer, more fuel efficient and quieter models with more seats on each flight results in lower greenhouse gas emissions. So back in 2021, United announced United Next, which is a historic aircraft order of the newest aircraft models today. And under United Next, we are expected to increase the total number of available seats per domestic departure by almost 30%, significantly lowering carbon emissions per seat. And then as part of the United Next program, we expect to take delivery of over 660 new narrow-body and wide-body aircraft, with an expected 20% improved fuel efficiency per seat compared to older planes. Excuse me. These new aircraft are also expected to be quieter than our older models. Another area is through operational efficiency. So operational measures that enable more efficient and direct flight can also reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and our noise footprint. So some of these measures are within our operational control, such as like reducing the use of auxiliary power units in favor of lower emission solutions like electric power at the gate. And these measures also help minimize ground noise. And then additionally, improvements like the FAA's development of a more streamlined and efficient air traffic control is expected over time to save fuel and to limit noise, not only at United, but overall air travel operations. And then lastly here with alternate propulsion, as we look forward to 2050, United anticipates that zero carbon aircraft technologies like battery, hybrid electric, or hydrogen propulsion may be adopted for shorter haul flights. And by using these technologies, these aircraft, they have the potential to support lower carbon operations for regional flights. And these technologies are also expected to reduce operational noise. Next slide, please. All right, and then the second pillar of our sustainability strategy is adopting more sustainable alternatives. So we can't leave this without talking about SAF. So SAF is our most promising technology solution for reaching net zero by 2050. So SAF is an alternative to conventional jet fuel that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 85% on a life cycle basis. And it plays a critical role in achieving our climate targets. So SAF's potential to scale up comes from its drop-in readiness, which means that when blended with conventional jet fuel, it can be used in current operations with existing infrastructure and no required changes to fuel systems or aircraft engines. Next slide. All right, and then as our most promising technology solution to reach net zero by 2050, our SAF program has continued to grow over the past year, expanding the number of SAF delivery locations that we originally established in 2023. So this included bringing a blend of SAF and conventional jet fuel to United flights operated from our hometown hub at Chicago O'Hare, following earlier integrations at Amsterdam Schiphol, London Heathrow, Los Angeles, and San Francisco international airports. Additionally, earlier this month, United announced plans to expand SAF operations to 3 more of our hubs, including IAH in Houston, Newark, and Washington Dulles. Next slide. All right, and then the last pillar I want to touch on here is regarding integrating sustainability initiatives across all of our operations. So one way in which we're doing this is by exploring recycling and waste minimization. So United seeks to divert waste and increase recycling across all of our operations. So we've done a couple of pilot programs, one in 2023 with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And here we implemented a food waste recycling pilot program at the United Club and terminal concessionaires. And this pilot program resulted in approximately 120 tons of organic waste being diverted from landfills in the year of 2024. Last year, we piloted another program at IAH in Houston to collect organics from the kitchens at United Clubs in Terminal C. So we partnered with a local composting company called Moonshot, where they collected and composted food waste from our clubs, and then ultimately turning that food waste into nutrient-rich soil that could be reused to improve soil health and conserve water. So in 2024, we collected more than 5,000 pounds of organic material for composting in Houston, which is pretty great. Another way we're working towards this is through certifying our clubs and our maintenance facility to LEED, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So we operate several LEED certified spaces, including the United LAX Technical Operations Center, which is LEED Gold. Our corporate support center, floors 4 and 5 in Willis Tower in Chicago are LEED Silver. We also have some LEED Gold and LEED Silver clubs at some of our hub airports. And then 2024, last year, we achieved some additional LEED Silver certifications at some of our clubs in Newark. And at our flight training center out in Denver, which is a 50,000 square foot building. And then the final thing I want to touch on here is that we're working towards increasing electrification of equipment on the ground. So as of December of 2024, more than 38% of United's ground support equipment fleet was electric, indicating a significant step towards electrification at both our hubs and our line stations. So notably in our hubs alone, nearly half of our entire GSE fleet has been electrified. And last year, United also completed some electric capacity studies and electrification roadmaps to identify high priority locations to focus on the transition from traditional fossil fuel GSE to eGSE, along with charging infrastructure. So altogether, these quieter electric vehicles not only reduce fuel use and air pollution, but they also lessen ground noise. So that improves kind of the airport environment for employees and also for our communities. And that is the end of what I have prepared for today. So I think we can open up to any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Really appreciate that presentation. I will take the liberty as facilitator to actually not so much ask a question as a request. You heard us talk about established on RNP or EOR and wanting to increase the use of that tool at LAX, particularly on the north downwind. And I did notice that Ron presented on actually the LAX north downwind, and having been at or above 6,000 feet at Dodger and then doing a continuous descent or an optimized profile descent down into LAX. And we know it happens rarely, actually, and I'm wondering if there's anything United can do to help request that you do more of those at LAX to try to increase the amount of its use as you do the north downwind. Particularly at night, we're trying to get an increased use of the RNAV on that approach at night to raise the altitudes on the north downwind, thus reducing the noise to those communities. So any thoughts on being able to help the roundtable in this task?
So I'll take that question, Ashley. I think we can. United is obviously a supporter. You see, we've spent significant money equipping our airplanes to participate. There are some legitimate reasons, right, that today, at least with the current technology the air traffic controllers have, that it limits the ability to use that. And primarily it's mixing traffic, right? So since there's traffic coming straight into that runway with that traffic on the downwind, it's much more difficult for controllers to find slots to put those airplanes on. So, any further advancements, Congress has given the FAA some additional money to modernize air traffic control. And I mean, I can give you our promise that, we're participating with the FAA on ways to use that money to improve. And this is strongly in one of our camps of things we'd like to see.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And as I said, EOR is actually installed at LAWA, but it's rarely used. And it is used more at San Diego. We've seen videos from San Diego where they are mixing the straight in with the downwinds at San Diego, and we're hopeful that it could be used more at LAX. So anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. I want to remind people to, if you have questions, comments, please raise your hand. The first was Joanne Williams. So if you want to unmute Joanne and ask your question.
Yes, it's for Zayed. You mentioned SAF, but you didn't say what that was. What is SAF?
Sure. It's sustainable aviation fuels.
Okay. And then you mentioned something about, what was it, net zero? Were you talking about emissions or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, over to you, Denny. Denny, you're muted, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Denny.
Ron, thank you for all you're doing with the pilots. And you mentioned that all the planes are RNAV certified. what percentage of the pilots are?
Well, at United Mainline, it's 100%. 100% of our pilots are trained. We do have a few, I think under 30 now, older Airbuses that are not equipped, and they're simply not equipped because they're retiring in the next 2 years. And so the investment's not worth the strain on our system to equip it and then just put it in the desert. But those 30 airplanes will be gone the next 2 years, and then it's 100% for both pilots and aircraft equipment. I will also add, though, that our regional partners we've been pulling along, right? All the newer, more modern regional jets like the E-175 are equipped, and we work with our partners to ensure their pilots are trained as well. But there are some older regional jets, i.e. 50 seat and less, that do not have the equipment to fly those approaches.
Okay, appreciate. You mentioned 30% of the planes. Let's see, can't read my own. I'll come back to that one. In terms of the improved jet engines, of course, we appreciate that for a lot of reasons, not only just the fuel efficiency, but also we need your help, though, with the ultrafine particles. Here in California, we have no real requirements at this point still. And I know you're aware of the problems that we've run into. And thank you for all that you guys have always done in terms of the UC Davis Airport Noise and Environment Symposiums that are every April. We appreciate you participating in that and making it better. Going back to the continuous descent, what angle of descent do you think you could do best? Obviously, we'd like to keep the planes as high as possible. And I guess you assume a 3%, or could you do 3.5 or even 4?
Generally today they're around 3 degrees is about the best we can do. It depends on the speed regime. So above 10, of course, you don't hear the noise as much above 10, but above 10, because we can fly faster speeds, those are angles that are higher, 3.5 and 4 degree. But once we have to slow to be below 250 knots, below 10,000 feet, 3 degrees is about the maximum we can do and go down without speeding up, right? We're already at flight idle. And so there's no way to control the speed past just being at flight idle. So we try not to get too much steeper than that below 10.
I appreciate. In terms of long-term history of trying to get the downwind to be much better than it is, one of the things that when they started all the next-gen activities, they told us they had the sequencing software that would have allowed holes to be automatically placed. It took us 4 years for the FAA to admit that they not only didn't have it, but that they hadn't even planned on it in our lifetime, or at least mine, before we hit the straight-on approaches. So anything that you can do when we're just having discussions with the FAA and the redesign of the airfields, not the airfield, but the air tracks would be greatly appreciated. And that's one of the places where you can help us the most.
Yep, I got that. And like I said, with the money that Congress has given to the FAA, we hope there's a spotlight on that to help solve that problem.
Yeah, on that subject, I'll just follow up. There is far less traffic, like between midnight and 5 a.m. or 1 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., just depending on the day. In that case, when there's not the need for, keeping with the straight in and the downwind, again, if you could just help by requesting that you're able to stay on it, if the traffic allows at night, that would be very beneficial to the residents. Go ahead, Denny.
I'll just say one last thing, and that is that it's a two-way street for us to help you as well. And we're on the same side. of making your flights efficient and timely, and that they're as quiet and as safe as we can make them. So anything that you can come up with that you need our help to do, like getting the FAA's attention on something, we're willing to write letters and even call Duffy's office if we need to.
And
We
another
appreciate
point,
that for sure.
another point that is that most often the aircraft are flying over water at night because they have, you know, the over water operations at night. But there are times when winds don't allow that, or things are closed and don't allow that. So I know that there's also limited time in which we're using the north downwind at night. But I just wanted to put that out there, that if you are on the north downwind at night, if you could improve, or not improve, but ask for to stay on that if at all possible. So anyway, I didn't want you to think that you could do it all the time, because most of the time they're not on the north downwind. So with that, Kurt, you're next if you want to go ahead and ask your questions.
Thank you. I just wanted to say to everyone from the United team that thank you for the presentation. It was informative, and I appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I'm a resident right underneath the flights in North Downwind, and I represent our community. So anything you can do that Jean brought up and that Denny brought up would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You can tell I'm enthusiastic about it, so I can promise you every time I fly to LA, I ask for the RFP approach. So I'm on your side there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, next, Jeff Moskin, you're up. Jeff, you're muted. Go ahead and unmute and then ask your question.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's more of a comment. In Frankfurt, Germany, they have a steep approach at 4.5 degrees. I wonder if the FAA is aware of that. I don't know exactly the name of it. I think they have in several other airports for noise abatement. They have a steep approach.
They might have a steep segment somewhere along it, but I can promise you it's not 4.5 degrees to the ground. At least all of our aircraft would be incapable of sustaining the proper approach speeds at 4.5 degrees.
Okay. Next is John Lohenberg.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, question's more for Ron. I think you had a slide up there where there were two like graphs or charts, and one was kind of a steady slope descent, I think. I'm not sure if it was a descent or a takeoff, and then another one was more staggered. Could you just recap what the difference is there and the significance of that?
Sure. Are we able to put the slide back up? There you go. So the what you're looking at is the vertical profile of two approaches. The one on the left happens to be the Dodger downwind from the north side of LA to 24 right. The white line is the published approach path, right? So you can see the approach path was actually designed to be a constant descent angle all the way to the ground. And then it's hard to see the little circles, but there's little green circles that are above the points at is it no rope or lazies, and essentially those are where the these are actual flights that were flying this and where they cross. So they're always at or above that constant descent angle, versus the picture on the right, which is a typical ILS that we would get vectors to final. And again, same thing, the white line represents the published flight path, which includes a level off segment in this case. And then the red dots show aircraft that are actually below the flight path of the procedure. Just trying to highlight the difference between the old style approaches and the new style approaches.
Okay, so the bottom right one is the old style then?
Correct.
Yeah, got it.
I will say though, when I looked at the data for LA specifically, the ILSs, the FAA has done a really good job of kind of optimizing your ILSs. They do have, I'll say, it's not really a level off, but they do have a reduced descent angle on them. But for the most part, they're fairly sloped. and LAX controllers seem to be doing a good job of not vectoring us below. So they're doing a good job on your ILSs there. Better than average I see around the country.
All right, thank you for that. Denny, I am not seeing any other hands raised at this time. Talking slowly in case somebody wants to raise their hand.
Well, okay,
So if you want, you can close this out.
I'll stall with one more question then. We know that the sky above us is pretty congested here. And when one of the things we looked at and keep raising in our technical working group is things like, can we add more controllers, redesign some of the areas that each controller controls, many other things, including worrying about the lower altitudes where we're now facing the incorporation of electric helicopters and drones. So anything that you have to say about that will be welcome as well.
Well, one thing I will add, I mean, we worked obviously with the FAA when they did the Metroplex project out there. You know, I think overall it had some positive impact. I know there's probably some pain points. There always is learning, right? Every time you implement something. But I will say the FAA does have a renewed focus. Now, I'm sure the shutdown I can't speak to any of the timelines for the FAA because I'm sure the shutdown has affected it. But they were looking and asking us questions about some of the ILSs and being able to possibly use the RNP-like paths, but coupling that to an ILS. And what that would do for the community is it would help engage more aircraft, right? Like I said, a lot of almost 100% of our aircraft are equipped to do the RNPs. That's not the case across all airlines and especially smaller operators. So if we were able to do the same type of flight path, but to an ILS, that might actually increase some of the usage. So that's another angle we're looking at.
And it's all very much appreciated. And any other ideas you have that you'd like us to see, any changes in the ground configuration, are also welcome.
Okay.
And thank you folks and thank you for all that you guys at United are doing, because it's not unrecognized that you are ahead of the curve on a lot of this activity.
All right, Denny, I think we can close this out.
Yes, please. And
All
thank
right.
you again.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Very well done, clear, understandable for the most part. It does get technical at times, but you know, those always do. So very much appreciate this. Thanks for offering to do the presentation. And it was good timing on it too, with all the work we're doing with the north downwind. A lot of it was very current for us. So thank you. You're welcome to stay on. And we have a few more items to get through on our agenda. And the next one, I believe, is our update on the LAX noise exposure map update.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll introduce that item. So members of Roundtable Chairman, as you know, Lala is leading our update to LAX noise exposure map. This is an important project that focuses on getting accurate depictions of aircraft noise levels around the airport, using the latest operational data and fleet projections for both current and future years, following FAA Part 150 guidelines. So for our specific study, it's going to be 2026 and 2031. The update will ensure that our mitigation programs are in alignment with current and as well as future operations at LAX. And most importantly, the update will ensure that we will have continued access to federal funds for the sound insulation programs around LAX. And so to guide us through this, the technical details, methodology, we have hired HMH to facilitate and to work on the technical parts of the study on LAWA's behalf. As you know, HMH has extensive experience with airport noise studies and community engagement. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Jean, who's going to give a short presentation to provide an overview of the NEM update project to everyone. So Gene?
All right, thank you. You can go ahead to the next slide, which is pretty much the agenda for the presentation. So we'll show you, we won't necessarily do introductions. This is meant for a public-facing meeting, which we did a little bit ago, but we will let you know who's involved with this project. We'll look at the airport and overview, as well as sound installation overview at the airport, talk a little bit about noise terminology, which most of you have seen several times now, talk about what is the noise exposure map update in terms of an overview and how you develop such a document and maps to present to the FAA or submit to the FAA for their acceptance. And we'll talk a little bit about what the stakeholder engagement is and schedule, as well as project website and contacts. And then we can take questions at the end. Next slide. So the people working on it, as Dan had said, HMH was asked to assist them in the process in updating their noise exposure map. Our project manager is Kate Larson. She's assisted by Vincent Ma, and I'm overseeing it, making sure that it complies with federal regulation requirements while also meeting the needs of the airport. David Chan on the LAWA side is managing the project. And Dan Young, kind of like me, kind of overseeing it, making sure that the resources are there and that we can get this done as almost as quickly as possible, while also assuring that it's accurately done. And then also Vanita Waskow, Chief of Airport Planning, and Crystal Lee, Deputy Executive Director, have also been involved and been in several of the meetings during the data acquisition process. Next slide. A little bit about the airport overview. This is a look at 2024, essentially, with nearly 77 million passengers, 580,000 takeoffs and landings, which is about 1,500 daily flights, nearly 2,000 weekly international flights to 82 global destinations, 7,000 people per square mile within the LA urbanized area, and a total workforce of about 50,000 people at the airport. Next slide. Here is more of the information that really starts to go into the process. You have to put the operations into the FAA's noise model. And so here is the historical aircraft operations, which we used to then develop the current conditions of 2026 and the forecast conditions of 2031 that Dan mentioned earlier. You can see that there has been a good amount of recovery from the pandemic back in 2020, but not a full recovery. And there's several reasons for that. One is that in terms of operations, airlines after the pandemic have tended to go to larger aircraft that fit more people, so you don't need as many operations to move the number of people. And then also just the fact that there's still some of the Asia travel has not rebounded from what it was prior to the pandemic. Next slide. And here is the runway configurations. Another thing that has to go into the noise model, you need to know where the aircraft arrive and depart the airport. And so those are the main position points, if you will, that go into the noise model. Next slide. So here we're showing a good rendition of typical LAX operations during the day, at least. This is west flow, which occurs 95% of the time. East flow then occurs, less than 5% of the time, and usually during Santa Ana conditions. But here are the typical flight tracks you see. You can see the north downwind there to the north as it comes in and aligns with the straight in approaches. And then you see the departures mostly over the water there. Next slide. We also this is the less than 5% of the time, and often during Santa Ana conditions where you are arriving over the water and departing over land. And those are you see fewer tracks here because, again, it's 5%. versus the 95% going the other way. But this is a good depiction again of how the aircraft are operating. They go up and around to the north, they go down and around to the south to come in to the airport over the water. And then as you're departing, you tend to turn and get out of way of the arrivals that are coming in. So next slide. The next slide, which shows the over ocean between midnight and 6:30, whenever winds are accommodating for those things. And you can see that they typically depart the south complex and arrive the north complex. And that's how you can have the over ocean, is that they are separated, often turn them away from the arriving runway to the north. So those are the main operations of how the airport operates, and all that information goes into the FAA's noise model and generating the aircraft noise exposure maps. Next slide. So a little bit about the sound insulation program. Purpose is to improve interior noise levels, get at least a 5 decibel reduction in those interior noise levels, and it be 45 dB or lower in terms of the community noise equivalent level, or CNEL. The funding is all done through Airport Improvement Program, passenger facility charges, and LAWA operating revenue. To be eligible for sound insulation, the property has to be located within the FAA accepted 65 decibel contour, have a 45 decibel or higher average interior noise level, and be built before October 1st, 1998. Next slide. As you see, over or nearly 23,000 dwelling units have been sound insulated over the 4 cities or in county: City of Inglewood, El Segundo, Los Angeles, and the County of Los Angeles. 12 schools in 2 school districts have been sound insulated, 6 schools in each of the Lenox School and Inglewood Unified School Districts. Next slide. A little bit about noise terminology. It's important to understand the maps that are provided in the aircraft noise exposure contours that are there. They're showing the 65 CNEL level contour, as well as the 70 and 75 contour. It's all done in terms of the decibel, in terms of also the A-weighted decibel, which is how the EPA and the FAA both expect the A-weighted decibel to be used for environmental noise analyses. The noise metrics, you have instantaneous maximum noise levels known as LMAX. You have single event known as the single event noise exposure level, or SENEL, and then the long duration exposure of CNEL, which is comprised of all the aircraft events that had SENELs. The FAA requires the use of the CNEL in a Part 150 study, and that it's developed using the FAA's noise modeling software to generate those contours. And all land use is compatible with aircraft noise less than 65 in terms of the CNEL metric. And then the assessments that are done on the contours once they are provided is that you look at the 5 decibel contour bands and assess land use compatibility within the 65 to 70, 70 to 75, and greater than 75 decibels. And that all comes from the requirements that are part of the Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 150, which is Airport Noise Compatibility Planning Projects. Next slide. Here's a graphical depiction of those noise metrics that I just talked about. The graph on the left, you can see as an aircraft approaches you on the ground, it goes in the higher noise levels until it reaches its maximum noise level, known as LMAX. And then as the aircraft is going away from you, it reduces down until it gets back into the ambient. If you look at the gray shaded area under that curve, that's the total noise energy that is then normalized to 1 second in terms of the single event noise exposure level. So single event noise exposure level will always be higher than the maximum sound level, which seems a little counterintuitive. You think a maximum must be the highest level. It is, but the SCNEL is normalizing the total energy into 1 second. And then you take all those SCNELs and put them into the hourly noise levels from those aircraft operations into hourly noise levels. And then you do a 3 times weighting, approximately 5 decibel weighting for the evening hours of 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then a 10 times weighting or a 10 decibel weighting for those between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. to determine the community noise equivalent level. Next slide. So now a little bit more about the federal regulation, which I said comes from Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 150. It is often referred to in industry as Part 150. It is a voluntary process. Over 250 airports have participated in this. And the reason they typically, the airports participate in Part 150 is it then provides opportunity for federal funding to implement your noise mitigation measures, such as the sound insulation program at LAX. Part 150 has 2 technical elements, the noise exposure map, which is what is being initiated here to ensure continued funding for the sound insulation program. And LAWA is only completing the noise exposure map element during this project. The noise compatibility program, LAWA currently has an FAA approved program in place to address incompatible land uses through noise abatement land use measures, noise mitigation, and programmatic elements. And again, one of the noise mitigation measures is the sound insulation program, for which they continue to receive federal funding, and the noise exposure map is required to represent current or forecast conditions at the airport. And LAWA did a screening of does the current FAA noise exposure map represent current and or future. It does represent current still, but it does not represent the future well. And so that's why the FAA did suggest that this is the time for LAWA to update their contours. Next slide. So the goals of this is, again, to produce updated noise exposure contours overlaid on land use maps to assess the land use compatibility and maintain FAA compliance with Part 150 to remain eligible for federal funding for their sound insulation program. Next slide. A little bit about roles and responsibilities. LAWA, as the project sponsor, is responsible for the development of the noise exposure map update. The FAA accepts the noise exposure map and certifies that it meets federal regulations and guidelines. And then the consultant team is really helping LAWA make sure that it complies with the federal regulations as well as meeting their needs. And then the stakeholders, such as yourselves, being with the roundtable, we'd ask that when we have things ready, that you would review inputs, review what we have done, which we will come back to you at a later date to let you look to see what we did and provide, any guidance. We've also reached out to airlines to make sure that they're okay with the forecast that we developed, that we have also submitted to the FAA for their approval for use in developing the noise exposure map. And then the public provide input on the study and review the draft documents, which should be out early in 2026. So we will keep you apprised of the progression of the study. Next slide. So where we're at right now is really, we completed the study initiation and have completed the data collection by providing the activity forecast to the FAA, which is an agreement with their forecast for LAX. And then we will then turn to, once we get the approval of the forecast, turn to actually developing the draft noise exposure maps and the company documentation that's required. We will, once the draft is ready, we will then conduct additional stakeholder meetings and a public open house And that will correspond with the time for the 30-day public review period and comment period, for which we would hope we would have your review done during that time as well and provide any comments that you may have. And then after the closing of the 30-day public review period, we would finalize the noise exposure map and submit it to the FAA for acceptance. Once it's accepted, it then becomes the official LAX noise exposure map, for which they would use for all the future grant applications to fund their sound insulation program at LAX. Next slide. So this is the current FAA accepted noise exposure map for 2020. Was the forecast year of the conditions at LAX back in 2015. And so this is what we are updating now to determine where those contours extend to. And the NEM must address 2 calendar years, and that's 26 and 31 that we're doing here. And again, the forecasts have been submitted to the FAA for their review and approval for use with this noise exposure map update. Next slide. In terms of stakeholder engagement, we expect to have 2 sets of open houses. The first already occurred back in last month, almost a month ago now, October 15th and 16th at the Flight Path Museum over in El Segundo, and then Jesse Owens Community Center, which was over east of Inglewood area, I believe. And so those have occurred. We will do them again once we have the draft noise exposure map results. We did meet with stakeholders, including the airlines. We do have a web page that you can go to, lawa.org/NEM update. It includes frequently asked questions and a newsletter. We did also, we'll have postcard mailings and newspaper ads for the next set of open houses. And then also we are providing multiple options to submit a comment. There is a form online, email, or snail mail. Next slide. In terms of the schedule, we are here in November between the open house study introduction, if you will, and actually getting the maps updated, and we'll come back again in either late 25 or early 26, depending on how quickly the FAA can approve the use of the forecast for these purposes, and then we can be ready to run the noise model, get the contours out, do the land use assessment, land use compatibility assessment, that is, and get the draft NEM out. And again, we're hoping to submit the NEM to the FAA in early 2026, which then they should be able to get it accepted by the FAA in time for the next grant cycle of sound insulation projects at LAX. Next slide. Here are the project contacts. I already told you the website. The email address for providing comments is LAX Part 150 NEM update at lawa.org. And you all know how to reach out to David Chan as well at LAWA, as he is the project manager on the LAX side. Next slide. And I believe that is it, and I can open it up for questions if there are any.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that when you do redraw this map, that we'll all be provided copies of it to share with our neighbors.
Yes, you will be given a you'll be notified that it's on the website, so that you can go get it there. There will be actual hard copies available as well, and we'll let you know where those are. But those are the 2 ways that you would have access. But yeah, we will let you know when it's available for review for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
All right, we can close that item, it looks like.
Hey, Jenny, I have a question.
Go
On
ahead,
the
Joan.
last meeting's notes, there was the 65 decibels, and then there was a reference to 45, and it confused me about qualifying.
Yeah,
So why
so
was the 45 mentioned?
yeah, so it's actually a two-step process to be eligible for sound insulation funding or sound insulation treatments. One is that you're inside the 65 CNEL contour, which are the contours we are updating at this point. The other is that you have an average interior noise level of 45 decibels or higher.
Oh, interior.
Interior, yes.
Oh, okay. And
That was added
you
about
said,
6 years ago.
okay.
Maybe even
And
more
then-
than that, but yes.
Yeah. And so when you say within the 65, do you mean no higher than 65?
Correct. No lower than
No less
65.
than.
So yeah, no
No
less than
less than 65. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Seeing
you.
no other
Gene.
questions, you're welcome. I think I'm up again. I have a few slides
You are.
for noise news. Just a handful of things that have come across the news wires since we last met. If you go to the next slide, it shows the handful or so items that we are going to present tonight. Again, none of these are from HMMH or from LAWA. These came from media sources and things that just in the industry news, those sorts of things that are related or somewhat related to the work of this roundtable. First is that there an update on the National Sleep Study, modernization space policy for commercial growth, climate change report. There was a report done about climate change may increase noise from aircraft operations. LAX awarded money for noise mitigation. And lastly, ICAO unites, and it's good timing again for the United presentation because they introduced this subject of this net zero by 2050. And so I have a slide on that as well in terms of what the International Civil Aviation Organization recently met and came up with their, they were united in their goal towards net zero by 2050. So let's get started. Next slide. So there's a national sleep study that's investigating the impact of aircraft noise on sleep, funded by the FAA and led by the University of Pennsylvania. And the goal is to develop some exposure response relationships for aircraft noise-induced sleep disturbance. It includes 400 participants near 77 U.S. airports that have significant nighttime aircraft operations. The research began in 2014 and was delayed a bit by COVID-19, and data collection ran from September 2021 through 2023. Used an innovative use of ECG and actigraphy for cost-effective self-administered sleep monitoring. And awakenings are defined as brain arousals lasting 15 seconds or more. And so the final report is expected mid next year. Next slide. So there was an executive order issued August 14th this year that is seeking to modernize the space policy for commercial growth. It provides streamlined licensing of commercial space launches, spaceport expansion, make it easier to construct new spaceports across the U.S., support for novel space activities, encourages innovation areas like in-space manufacturing and orbital refueling, and introduces a streamlined framework for authorizing these activities. There is a little bit of talk about government restructuring, which creates a new advisory role in the DOT or Department of Transportation, focused on space innovation and deregulation, elevates the Office of Space Commerce with the Department of Commerce, and promotes the FAA Associate Administrator for Commercial Space Transportation to a senior executive role. And lastly, it does acknowledge the impacts of launch-related noise on nearby communities and refers to recent legislation addressing sonic booms and other disturbances in terms of the environmental considerations of modernizing space policy. Next slide. There was a recent report from the University of Reading in England that states that climate change is likely to increase aircraft noise pollution. The reason for those is threefold. Warmer air reduces lift of aircraft, therefore causing aircraft to stay lower for longer after takeoff. Lower climb angles mean more noise exposure for nearby communities. Up to a 7.5 reduction in climb angle on hot days, projected about a 50 decibel noise footprint will expand and be larger. Thousands more residents may be affected. Low frequency noise will increase most, causing greater annoyance and health impacts. And its study highlights needs for climate action to manage future aviation noise. Next slide. Part of why we're doing the Part 150 or noise exposure map update is to continue funding. LAWA has received the largest AIP noise grant in fiscal year 2025 at $22.8 million. Funding is designated for the programs in the cities of El Segundo and Los Angeles. Part of a broader federal initiative, there's a total of almost $50 million awarded to 8 airports nationwide. Again, LAX grant represents nearly half of the total available throughout the country. So well done by LAX. It shows that they are able to spend that money because that's one of the key things, is that you are able to efficiently spend that money once it's awarded. And the FAA clearly has good thoughts about the ability for LAWA to actually use those funds when they award them. So next slide. So the International Civil Aviation Organization, 42nd assembly of it, met recently, came up with global consensus of all ICAO member states endorsed environmental resolutions. Reinforce long-term goal for international aviation to be at net zero by 2050. The 2030 target of a 5% reduction through sustainable fuels and clean energy. Some of that United just talked about. The CORSIA expansion is about stronger global participation in carbon offsetting. And the ICAO Finvest Hub is a new platform to connect climate finance with aviation projects. And beyond carbon, really focus on noise, air quality, plastics, and climate resilience. I believe that's all I have for the noise news. Thank you. Appreciate the continued opportunity to bring these things to you, and hope you find them beneficial. And certainly they're available for you to go back and review. I don't expect you to remember all this. I think the key highlights were the 5 items that I did bring to you about the things that were happening in industry.
Thank you. Thank you, Gene. One clarification, were we part of the sleep study of the 77 airports?
I do not know that. I don't think we will know that until the report is released, quite frankly. They usually don't release that until with the report.
Well, I'm not going to get any sleep not knowing now.
No, right.
Let's
Very
move
nice.
on to roundtable discussion.
I have an item I'd like added to the next agenda.
Please.
My name is Ryan Baldino, Mayor Pro Tem of El Segundo. In speaking with our consultants, we are having trouble determining compliance with the preferential runway program, which lets us know which carriers are using the runway furthest away from El Segundo, and discovered that the reason is that we are not getting the same level of detail and information on runway usage that we used to get from LAWA and or from this subcommittee. And specifically, I'm talking about the runway usage data between 2009 and 2016 used to identify usage by operator. And so if there was an outlier, which at the time was FedEx, who was violating the policy, we could show that they were violating the policy. We could put some pressure on them to bring them into compliance. Now all the information is combined, and we can't tell, besides the overall usage, who's violating the policy and who's not violating the policy. And so I request we put on the agenda for this board to discuss and vote on, asking if it's LAWA, if it's this group, whoever it is, to go back and be more transparent and give us the information on the runway usage by operator the way it used to be in 2016, because we don't have that information today.
Dan, do you have any?
Yeah, I can
thoughts
speak a
on
little
that?
bit to that. So my understanding is that the runway usage was an active roundtable work plan item, in years past, and numerous studies and updates, and these reports were produced regularly, which I did identify, like you had noted, mainly cargo operators that are in the South Complex, rather than crossing two active runways, they're often depart from the outer runway. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, I mean, I was not as active in the roundtable during those years, but I think the roundtable's findings were that, and with the FAA, was that based on safety operational requirements, that these cargo operators, as well as some of the FBOs, it's more difficult to get them to the inner runways. And so my understanding was that was kind of as much as they could have done up to that point, had been done, and short of, I think in the FAA's eyes, operating kind of not in the most safe and efficient ways. They, I think they did all they could to get the inner runways for some of these operators. And so I believe, Gene, correct again, that some of this was scaled back, just because I think it had reached that point. And I think also in 2019, 2017 timeframe, actually, not 2019, I'm sorry, Metroplex also happened. And so I think there was an reallocation of resources to focus on North Downwind, the Lady Jays, all these other Metroplex procedures where, concentrated flight paths, just much more in-depth. So we all hit with, I think, Danny, you can attest to this, we're all just hit with this major project that, and, and even in terms of noise comments, we used to get anywhere from 20 to 40 comments per month from, handful of folks, under 100 comments. We used to be able to reply individually. We jumped to 300, 400 people submitted 20, 30 plus thousand comments. So I think all of that, kind of, I think with the roundtable's concurrences, from I recall, that we did dial back those reports. That's something we would monitor. And also as part of our, reports, we do, produce the runway usage in our quarterly reports that we submit to the state. And I think we do give periodic updates here. So yeah, so I think that's just a little background, so I understand your motion is to have this discussed next month with all roundtable members to see about putting this back on the table. But I think that's the background I have to add to the conversation, and happy to discuss more.
Great. So I'll make a motion to put it on the next agenda.
We actually don't need a motion. This is
even
just for
better.
discussion, so
You've been heard.
you've been heard. So
Let me
Dan-
know if you want me to show my own presentation in PowerPoint. I'm happy to do that.
All right. We meet a few weeks before the next roundtable meeting with Denny to set the agenda, so we will keep that in mind. So we have it written down that was your request, so we will put it on the agenda unless there's reason not to, but I don't see that there is. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Ryan,
All
happy to have you on board. I think we had some challenges, right, with either you not getting the emails and the invites in months past. So
I apologize for not attending.
Yeah.
I just found out I was on this committee like a week
Okay.
ago.
okay,
oh, well, welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glad to have
Happy to
you.
help.
so welcome. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
Any other member discussion?
I don't know how to do it. Can I say something? It's Timmy.
Yes.
Okay, it was really hard for me to follow having no visual and then plus the beginning with me coming in late. So forgive me. But did you guys discuss the Woodland Hills letter, the reappointment?
Yes, you were approved for reappointment.
Okay. I tried to follow along best I could, but I have to say my eyes are like glazed over because there's nothing to look at.
No, we
Well,
did
other
that
than
just before you got on. We approved that.
And for
Okay,
whatever
all
it's
right,
worth, it
good.
was unanimous.
Well, yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. No, I just thought I missed it. I'm like, did I fall asleep during this? I didn't know.
Yep. All
Okay,
good.
appreciate it.
Yep. Dan, did you have something else?
Yeah, just had an item to bring forth. So Dave and I, kind of looking through some of our records and whatnot with the roundtable, realized earlier, a couple months ago, that this was in fact the roundtable's 25th year anniversary. So as such, discussing internally, I think what Lawa would like to do is obviously probably too late to schedule something this year with the holidays coming up. But just want to let members know, and Denny know that, we're looking to organize a special event to recognize the 25 years, all the accomplishments and all the hard work everyone's put in. So details will be forthcoming, but, it'll probably be early next year, January, February timeframe at the latest. But, we'd like to have an in-person event of some kind. And, David, Karen and Elizabeth and I will be working on it, and we'll get you the details. So congrats, and 25 years, quite a milestone.
Speaking of in person, are we ever going to meet again in person?
It's a very good question.
Right. I think there's still going to be some time before that happens, still with all the construction happening, and it's difficult to get into and, out of some meeting spaces. So keep that in mind. We can certainly discuss it also at upcoming roundtable meetings, but there's no plan at this point to go back yet to in-person meetings. But yeah, keep reminding us, because as things change, and maybe at some point.
And it may be good just to look at a hybrid where people that are far out may not have to travel the 2.5 hours to get here.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other member discussion?
I just want to mention that I attended an event at Hawthorne Airport this past week with Archer Aviation, and they have purchased the airport use authorization so that they now have that from the current operator at Hawthorne Airport. And they are looking to try to be up and running for the Olympics.
You might want to explain what Archer is, Denny.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the electric helicopters. One of the two major ones. It was Archer and Joby that are the two that have been working closely here.
Go ahead, Jeff.
We don't have any details.
So the key word to that is acquired. According to the mayor of Hawthorne, they did not purchase the airport. I don't know if you implied that, but they
no. That's why I said it was they acquired the usage of the airport from the current leaseholder.
Okay, I guess that's probably Advanced Air. There is a big hangar that used to be owned by Wolf Air and Advanced Air, and there's been a lot of work going on there. That may be where they're operating. It's kind of midfield on the south side.
I think you're correct. They also have plans that they would like to add several large structures to that building, to that area right there where that building is.
Yeah.
Denny, I can actually offer clarity on the Archer deal. I don't know to what degree you're interested, but the acquisition of the master lease, which is somewhat of a monopoly because it is for practically all the land that is non-runway land at the airport, it's from HALE, Hawthorne Airport LLC.
Oh,
And
okay.
the acquisition included its related companies of Advanced Air and 395 LLC.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I actually have more information if you want to know more, but I didn't know what your specific question was limited to.
Well, I think it would just be good for us to address that in the future.
What
Well,
that the hub, Denny, you mean, as it might affect LAX air traffic?
Correct.
I think that's a good point, because this deal, and there's no reason right now to believe that it won't go through, this deal includes a test hub. And, there's been no environmental impact reports that I know of, maybe Jean can speak to this, that includes eVTOLs or a test bed for AI eVTOLs in our airspace.
That.
Jean, do
Yeah,
you know
there,
if there's been any environmental impact reviews either between Hawthorne or LAX that have explored?
I am not aware of any, and I think it's a little early because now would be the time that they would start looking into that now that they have the access to the airport. So I doubt anything has been done yet on it, but that is something to be on the lookout for. And I assume this is something you want me to try to keep tabs on. I was also made aware of it a couple weeks ago as well, of this happening. So I will keep tabs on it for you.
Okay, well, I do want to point this out for you then, too, to put on your radar. Hawthorne put up a public notice on November 5th where they did not identify the applicant, which I did not appreciate. I think that should be public knowledge. But it does include a mitigated negative declaration, and it's for one project that will be of a larger, broader redevelopment by Archer. And this particular project is being done by 395 LLC, which was proposed and dates back from the public records I saw to 2024. So clearly this was in motion before the deal was finalized, and possibly even before the deal began to be spoken about. However, it is in Archer's SEC filings that this development is included in the deal, and it's being done on behalf of Archer. So the fact that it has a mitigated negative declaration instead of an EIR suggests possibly piecemealing this project, and also the fact of, again, if it involves eVTOLs, wouldn't a full environmental be required? So there's just more info for you.
All right.
Well, they don't even have their aircraft approved yet.
No, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. So obviously, Jean, I knew that there were no EIRs done yet, right? Because that would have been putting the cart before the horse. My point is, I was aware this mitigated ND is out there, and it's part of the deal, which suggests it's either being piecemealed or they're circumventing an EIR. And that may be problematic and a concern for the Roundtable's interest, because again, this is in our shared airspace.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hey, Timmy.
Helicopter, Denny,
Yes, sir.
can I, say something first, Jean? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I had a
Tony.
question.
Timmy, this is Jeff Moskin. Can you explain the difference between a negative declaration and an EIR?
Well, first of all, this is a mitigated negative declaration. So let me start with the difference between a mitigated negative declaration and a negative declaration. The mitigated ND means that there is potential for significant impact without mitigation. But with mitigation, it will be insignificant. And they're claiming with their proposed mitigation measures in this document, in these CEQA environmental documents, that it will reduce it to less than significant impact. A negative declaration is simply insignificant impact from the get-go, or so they always say, right? But a full environmental impact report involves an extensive investigation and reporting on not just the impacts during the project, but also of the operations after the project, as well as cumulative impact of other operations that currently exist, and et cetera, et cetera.
So are they trying to use this instead of doing an EIR?
Yeah, I mean, y'all can go to Hawthorne's website. I can provide David the link if he wants to disseminate it to everyone. The mitigated negative declaration is linked to it. It's 277 pages. And for me, I'm seeing a lot of red flags, but I sit on the round table, so I'm like, I'm not going to get in their business. But since Denny brought it up, I mean, we all know that between Burbank, Van Nuys, and LAX, I'm pretty well versed, but I also am interested in these regional airports that are impacting our airspace. And so I educated myself on this one as well.
Thank you.
Joanne?
You're welcome. And I believe there was a lady
sorry.
that had a question.
Yeah, John Williams,
Hey,
go ahead.
Question. Have we done anything about the complaints about the helicopter noise? Because some of my residents are complaining in Windsor Hill View Park that there's noise from helicopters. Have we done anything to address those complaints? I know we had, I don't know if it was El Segundo or somebody was complaining about the helicopter noise.
I don't think that's.
Are you asking? That one's for Gene, right?
Yes,
I
think
guess.
so.
Okay.
Or Denny. So Denny, go ahead if you had something to say.
Well, I would just simply say that we have not taken on helicopter noise on this roundtable.
Okay.
Yeah, because most of the
it's
helicopter on that
it's not directly related to
operating at
LAX
LAX.
at this point. Because we don't have any operations here at LAX yet. We had some years ago, but that helicopter pad was closed.
Okay. David, you were going to say something.
Yeah, just echoing what Danny said. We typically don't have helicopter operation at LAX. So if you're hearing helicopter noise, they might be coming from another airport. I think most of them are based at Van Nuys, from what I recall. It could be some that are coming from Whiteman as well, or even Hawthorne. So.
And Torrance.
Okay.
Torrance gets a few too with Robinson manufacturing there. And then I think there are quite a few sightseeing flights that go through the area.
So
But
those who are complaining will have to go elsewhere, not the round table.
Correct. Because they don't originate or end at
There's a group.
LAX.
There's a group on helicopter noise down in Torrance.
Okay.
I haven't heard from them in quite a while now, though.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and go to the second to the last item, which is review of roundtable formal action items. So in item 4, we had the acceptance of the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council to another 2-year term for membership on this roundtable. And then in item 5, we had approval for the roundtable to write a letter requesting an update of EOR at LAX.
Well,
That's
first
all
one
I
is
had.
obviously open and closed. The second one, we still have to just get a letter out.
Right. So I'll work with Denny to get that letter written and out.
Outstanding.
So is
Back to you.
Plan B
Oh.
completely dead with the technical committee? Is Plan B completely dead? You remember they had a Plan B
Nope.
that they submitted
Right.
to FAA.
No.
Is it completely dead?
No, it is not. It's paused because we have not met in several months as a technical working group, but we're waiting for us to reconvene once the FAA has any progress to update on the handful or so of remaining open action items, for which that is one of them.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
The reason that we've been canceling those meetings is because there's no reason to discuss it among ourselves if we can't get answers from the FAA.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, Denny, back to you to adjourn.
Well, when is our next meeting?
Yeah, before we adjourn, just want to note the next meeting will be on February 11, 2026 at 1:30 p.m.
With that in mind, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays.
Yes.
Both Merry
likewise.
Christmas, Kwanzaa,
Same to
and,
all of you. Same to all of you.
I echo the same, everybody. I hope you all have a blessed couple months.
And
All right.
again, thank you, Carl. I saw you were on this from Spirit Airlines. Thank you for being with us consistently, as you always are. Thank you, United, for being a great speaker for us and for keeping us posted on how we can help you and how we can be aware of what's going done. With that, thank you, Lawa, and thank you, Gene, for hosting and doing a great job of getting this thing moving.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
This meeting is formally adjourned.